Hi, today I'm going to check out the production of the classic Kiss album Rock and Roll Over from 1976, which was produced by Eddie Kramer. More specifically, we're going to check out the track calling Dr. Love. There are all sorts of isolation tracks online, and has been for many years. Many Kiss tracks exists like that. For instance, Dr. Love is in the video. In the video description, you can see they have first the vocals, then the guitars, then the bass, then the drums, and then the solo guitars and so on. So it's all isolated. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use those tracks. I'm not going to play them here, although they have been online and they explicitly declare that it is isolation tracks of this and that song. So I assume that this is something that the copyright owner is okay with. I'm not going to play Dr. Love, calling Dr. Love in this video either, but I'm going to play it myself. Going to record and play a tune that is similar. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to record guitars, and then Cubase is going to measure that frequency spectrum. Then I'm going to let Cubase analyze the frequency spectrum of the isolated guitars of the original Calling Dr. Love recordings. Then Cubase calculates how to transform Johan Segeborn's guitars to sound like Ace and Paul's guitars. It's actually quite a powerful function. And I'm going to do the same for the drums. I actually have done it, for the kick and for the snare and for the rest of the drums separately to get it to sound like Peter Criss did in that recording. So what I'm going to do here is to play something that is similar to the style of Rock and Roll Over and calling Dr. Love. So not the exact riff, but something similar enough for you to get the feel for if the sound is close or not. I think it's very close. This Cubase EQ matching is just amazing, just powerful. Now, in the actual recording of Dr. Love, they did that in Nanuet, I think it's called, in the Star Theatre. So it's recorded in a big room. You can see the link in the video description here where what sources I'm using here. They actually put the drums on the stage, and I think they had they mic'd it with the U47, and they had AKG C451s to catch the room. They wanted to sound big. They also set up the rooms in a smaller room in the facilities as well, some dressing room or something like that with really hard walls to get that really live sound from Peter Criss. I'm not. You should read that article. It's really interesting. It actually goes into some detail. They used the record plant recording truck, so they had the 24, I think, channel Auditronics console. I think they had 3M tape machines, and they used Pultec equalizers and Uray compressors, so probably 1176 compressors then. On the guitars, they used Neumann U87 and 67, and they used Biodynamic M160, and they used Sennheiser 421 and so on. I think the guitars were set up on stage, but they also recorded them in smaller rooms and in hallways and all sorts of stuff, which you can read about in the article. It said that Gene Simmons' bass amp was set up, facing a hallway, and they recorded it 10 feet away. I do think his sound is much more immediate and in your face than that, but maybe that's how they did it. Which guitars they used, they don't mention. I assume they used the standard guitars, Ace Frehley, Les Paul, and Paul Stanley, maybe a Flying V or something, or maybe Les Paul too. All those guitars sounds very similar. If you use Flying V, Les Paul, or SG, or something like that, you will get similar results. When it comes to Gene, it's more interesting, I think, whether he used the I think it's clear that he used the bass with the pickup really near the bridge. So he either used the Ripper or his Low-View custom bass. I've tried both on this, or not the Low-View custom. I've actually tried a Gibson EB3 instead, but I moved the Mudbucker or the Sidewinder pickup to close to the bridge. So it's for all practical purposes that's the same as the Low-View custom that Gene had, and it comes really close, I think. I'm just lining the bass. I'm going through an 1176, 1973 1176 Uray compressor, and I'm using a 610, the LA 610 actually. So I'm also using the optical limiter before to make it bigger. When it comes to guitars, I'm using the Studio Vintage head. Most knobs on 5, like Ace prefers, and then going to a 4x12, and there I only have one speaker at a time. For one with guitar, I have a Jensen C12Q from '63, and for one guitar, I have a Greenback from 1972, the standard Greenback. I'm using an SG from 2013. And for the drums, you can see in the video description what drums I'm using. But I'm using the Jupiter snare, which I think is the most important thing for Peter's sound. So let's listen to the track. And after the track, there will be some, with the EQ matching and without. So you can see how it sounds like I recorded it. So I'm going back and forth a bit. Let's check it out, and I will do some more comments at the end. So it's cool when switch back and forth with the EQ matching and without. because they're both similar and both completely different. So and that's probably the one of the greatnesses of Eddie Kramer. You know, his work. It sounds completely natural. It just sounds better and bigger, because everything just got punchier and better separation and bigger sounding. But it kind of sounds. It's raw and natural, just beautiful. I would never have guessed to EQ the guitars like this, but you know, I had all sorts of frequencies in my guitars that doesn't have, you know, isn't put out by the system, but it's kind of artifacts, you know, which is not in the range of the guitar. But Eddie probably pushed the frequencies that actually contains the push and the, you know, from the guitar, and it sounded so much better and dynamic. But I would never have EQ it like that. Not until now, now that I've learned how to do it. When it comes to the bass, I'm actually using a whole lot of things here. I'm using the VST, Cubase VST bass amp to get a bit of distortion. And then I EQ match that one with Gene's track. Actually, I had to double the track and pan it and delay one of them a little bit, because it's clear when you listen to the isolated tracks that's what Eddie did to Gene's bass, and that's partly why it sounds so, you know, it just jumps out and it sounds so arrogant and, you know, bold. And it the fact that with that little delay and that punches out on one side makes you hear the bass a whole lot better, even though you don't have to have it that high up in the mix. Then I don't know what. I mean, they claim he used the bass amp that they recorded from 10 feet. I think it's much more immediate. It sounds like this sounds like a lined sound, or at least close mic'd with a smaller bass amp. Not the big Ampeg SVT stack that Gene used. That, you know, you never get that punch, that quick sound. I think not in my experience. But Eddie Kramer can probably do anything. But I doubt they distant mic'd a big 810 SVT there. And then it sounds like some, you know, it almost sounds like an auto wah or something like that. You know, almost sounds like a synthesizer, the isolated bass. I don't have it here, so you do have to go to the link in the video description and listen to Gene's bass. It's just amazing. So a bit of work done there in for me to get somewhere near Gene. So what do we have left? Well, the drums. You needed a whole lot more meat than you get. So add a whole lot of low end to those drums and cut away lot of the top end. Then I didn't EQ match the solo to the Ace Frehley solo. I just took I used the same for every guitar. So I took the Kiss rhythm track. I EQ matched that to all my guitars. And I think it was close enough, but this solo doesn't sound like Ace Frehley. It's too thin or something like that. You know, Ace was more big, fat notes in some way. But I thought mine sounded cool, so I included it too. When it comes to speakers, guitar speakers, I used the ones I had at hand here, which is 72 T1221 and a 63 C12Q. But as I've understood it, and there's yet another video in the video description, or at least at Alive, Ace used Blackback T1221, so 1975 T1221, and that is actually shown, and it's dated also, the speaker you can see that he had in his Coventry cab. Not original, of course, since they bought those cabs in 1973, but he probably blew some speakers, and so they updated it. So most likely Ace would have and Paul would have used blackbacks, probably T1221 here too, but I used greenbacks and Jensen here. and then the EQ matching. All right, now I've ranted on for a long time here. Sorry about that. Let's discuss it in the comments now. Cheers.